What's going on, guys? It's Mirwin. Today we're going to dissect my song Double Down. So if you guys haven't watched the YouTube channel, we have our series Dissect, inspired by a podcast on Spotify, where I talk about some of the production, the lyrics, and the backstory behind the music I make. Today we're going to be doing my song Double Down off of my new album Strangers in the Dark. If you haven't listened to this song or my album yet, definitely encourage you guys to do that. We got a link in the description. Definitely encourage you guys to go check that out. We're just going to get started today, so if you haven't watched an episode of Dissect before, we have 6 questions we ask about every song. So we're just going to get straight into it. So the first question we ask is going to be, what's the heart behind the song? So for this song, Double Down, this is a song, kind of one of the more bars focused songs on the album. You know, I have a bunch of different, like a couple different songs in the album where, you know, I'm really more focused on, like, you know, the delivery, the wordplay, you know, the metaphors, all that stuff. So this is definitely one of those songs where I'm really kind of more locking in on that side of it, as opposed to, like, you know, the storytelling or, you know, the message of the song. If it were to say kind of, you know, you listen to this song, kind of the message or theme of the song is what, you know, the title is Double Down, is kind of that whole idea of, you know, betting on yourself. You know, I say that in this song, you know, betting on yourself, you know, believing in yourself, kind of taking that chance, taking that risk, you know, chasing your dreams, kind of all that sort of, you know, kind of, you can group all those type of, you know, ideas together. That's kind of what the, you know, message or like theme of this whole song is, if I were to say what a theme is, and, you know, just kind of mixing in, you know, the bars and different things with it. So that's kind of the heart behind the song. Like I say, it's pretty, you know, straightforward as far as there's not like a super deeper message or anything, as far as, you know, like, oh, I'm trying to do this with like a character or, you know, different things like that. So really this one, you know, as I was writing it, was really just, you know, I really loved the sample, and it felt like, you know, just a really good beat as I was making it, just to really, you know, try and, you know, really do some good verses on. So that's kind of the heart behind this song, you know, pretty straightforward in that respect. Moving on to the next question, we'll probably camp on this one a little longer. That being said, is what's your favorite part lyrically? So this song, as I was writing it, like I say, I liked the beat as it was. I initially, and you know, I might talk about this in the Deconstructed, which I encourage you to watch that as well. I show how I made the beat for this song. As I was making the beat, I initially had it, I try to make my songs shorter if it's not necessary and helpful for the song to be longer. So, you know, I initially just had the song as 2 verses, but I felt like sonically, you know, the beat got a little repetitive maybe in the second verse. So, you know, I toyed with the idea of getting a feature artist for the second verse. You know, I reached out to some people on Instagram, couldn't get anything back. So I was like, alright, I'll do the second verse, but I felt kind of like the song was missing something, just to kind of keep it interesting, push it to the next level. So that's when I ended up doing that third verse, and making that third beat, that little small, it's kind of a beat change, it is a beat change, but it's such a shorter section, it's kind of just like a little, like, almost outro in my opinion. But so that's when I added on that third verse part there, and I think it does a really good job just keeping it fresh, you know, keeping the song fresh as it progresses, and, you know, you got something at the end to kind of, you know, look forward to in a sense. So that being said, there's a lot lyrically that we can look at here. I'm just gonna pick some bars out from like each of my verses that I kind of like. From the first verse, I think my favorite line is, I've been on my Harper Lee, killing all this mockery. You're looking more like Orwell, Big Brother watching me. That's probably my favorite bar from the first verse. So if you haven't read or heard of the book To Kill a Mockingbird, that is a classic book. You know, it's kind of a movie, you know, very, you know, lots of high school students, you know, it's like a book, like, not mandated, but a book that a lot of students read in high school. So the author of that book is Harper Lee, and so kind of doing some wordplay there with the title, and again, kind of feeding into that idea of, you know, betting on yourself, you know, proving yourself to others, all that type of thing. I've been on my Harper Lee, killing all this mockery. And then the second line there, and I've read both of these books that I'm going to talk about here, so I've read To Kill a Mockingbird. And the second one here, you're looking more like Orwell, Big Brother watching me. That is a reference to the book 1984, or it might be 1989. I think it's 1989, which is a book by George Orwell. So that book is one of a very popular, like, dystopian science fiction novel. Kind of the big theme, or like big idea in that book, is there's like the government is like watching and spying on everybody. They have like cameras in houses and like there's only like certain areas in like the city that you can like they're not watching you, and even there they're like they find cameras and things. So again, kind of just some wordplay there with the title of that book and the author's name, and kind of again feeding into that idea of proving to other people that chip on your shoulder kind of mentality. They're watching you, kind of waiting for you to succeed or fail kind of idea. So that's my favorite bar in the first verse. Looking at the second verse here, my favorite line here in the second verse, I'm spilling out my guts like it's a scene from a murder, and I ain't holding nothing back like I'm a tweet from the burner. So both of those lines I think are pretty cool. So spilling out my guts like it's a scene from a murder. So spilling out my guts as far as opening up and like vulnerability, and then literally scene from a murder, kind of that imagery. And then I ain't holding nothing back like I'm a tweet from the burner. So a burner account on Twitter. Famous athletes kind of have these kind of kind of feeding into this mentality a little bit of talking to the haters and all that stuff. Burner account, something a lot of famous people, athletes especially use, where it's kind of an anonymous account, and they say kind of what they really think, maybe about like the management or a coach or other players, or again towards the haters or whatever. So again, kind of playing into that idea of the chip on your shoulder, trying to prove yourself. So I like that one a lot. I think my favorite verse overall is this third verse, just because I think I was able to do some different things with it. Especially when compared to like the first and the second verse, and then and again having that beat change I think really helps you in that respect. But also just some different flows, different rhyme schemes. So I really like the first section here. That Ab-Soul mixed with Abbey Road. Used to step in the game on my tippy toes. Not walking the booth with Bigfoot flows. Finally on my way like Rama Soul. So just some unique rhymes there. So Abbey Road, tippy toes, Bigfoot flows, Rama Soul, and all some multi-syllabic rhymes, which is really cool and always fun. Something I like doing there. Some of the references there. So Ab-Soul mixed with Abbey Road. So Ab-Soul is a rapper on Top Dog Entertainment, a record label. I love Ab-Soul. I've been listening to his music for a while. I believe. I got introduced to him through some features he's done on some other artists I like. And Abbey Road, a reference to, you might not be able to see it on camera here, but the Beatles, one of the first like music groups that I really remember loving and like quote unquote discovering by my own without like someone else showing me, or kind of by my own intention of listening to them. And then we got this final line here, finally on my way like Rama Soul. Rama Soul is I believe a rap. I'm pretty sure. I kind of had to look it up because I knew the name and hadn't actually listened to them. So this is like kind of maybe just using it for the rhyme in this case, but not someone I've actually listened to a lot. I like skimmed through it a little bit. But they're early Christian rap group, I believe, called Rama Soul, and they have a song called On My Way, so kind of tying those two groups together, and you get that unique rhyme, so I really like doing that. The other two lines that I really like here, and that I'm super proud of on this third verse, this section here, they kind of feed into each other here, so like flow into each other, so we'll do it section by section. Telling them all, send the plaques in the mail, I got a feeling that I cannot fail. Now my life looks like a damn URL. www watch. So I really like that line there. I think it was pretty clever. The first ones are kind of more so for a line. It's really this, URL and the W line that kind of compound and are like set together. A URL obviously is the website address whenever you go to a website. So www. Back in the day they used to say like HTML, // all that stuff, on commercials or whatever. But so with this line, kind of, I'm again kind of a flex a little bit. Now my life looks like a damn URL. www watch, kind of like when we talk about a win-loss record in sports. Again, I'm a pretty big sports fan. We talk about the W's for wins, so basically saying I'm winning. So www watch, and the cool thing I like with the flow I did here is it goes into the next line. www watch. They want to put me inside of a box like the end of 7. Killer flows don't need a weapon. My stomach is empty. The verses are plenty. I'm ready for seconds. So the first line there is the one I really like out of that section. They want to put me inside of a box like the end of 7. So 7 is a movie. I was just staying up late one night and it was on. And I think watched pretty much all of it except for maybe the very first 5 minutes. Movie from the 90s, but it's got two very well-known actors in it. It's this movie about this serial killer. It's like a crime movie. that is kind of their like the device or whatever is the 7 deadly sins, hence the title of the movie. So basically the end of the movie, spoiler alert if you haven't watched it, ends with this really dramatic scene in the desert where, you know, there's a box being delivered to the main 2 detectives and the like quote the villain John Doe, and it's like just dropped off. You know, there's kind of this famous scene, what's in the box, you know, what's in the box, and it turns out it's you know, it's like I don't know, it was censored on TV, but I looked it up and I figured out what it was. You know, they show what it is in the movie, but it's the protagonist's wife's head, I believe. It was either hand or head. I think it was hand. I think it was head. I could be wrong. Again, it's been a while since I've seen it, but really cool movie, and the ending is just like, obviously that ending is crazy. It ends with this really dramatic like sunset, and it's got like a bunch of other stuff going on at the end I won't give away, but really cool movie. Got a lot of like crazy stuff. The ending is like nuts. But so kind of cool tie-in to me with that movie that, you know, obviously I enjoy. You know, it was one that I like, you know, enjoyed watching. It has a really memorable ending. And then kind of tying in that scene with just again kind of the idea of, you know, being put inside of a box, being limited by what other people think of you, you know, being judged by other people. That's kind of the idea I'm going with that line there. So also a line I really like. And again, I always love tying in references to other art, you know, movies, you know, other music, other artists. So I always love being able to do that. So those are probably my favorite lines on this song here. Moving on to the next question here is going to be, what's your favorite part musically? So my favorite part musically for this one, you know, I always say the sample. So I love the sample for the first part. You know, I think it was really cool. The pitched up, you know, it's really catchy too. I found myself really, you know, that section I feel like has really good like melody and all that. So I really like that. I also really like the third verse. I think again, I think it might just be just that it's had the change in the song, and you know, it's got that, you know, little switch up at the end that makes me like it more as opposed to if it was by itself. But I really like that third verse section. Just, you know, I have this really cool sample chop I did with a different song. The drums are way different than the first verse and second verse. And it's just got a lot of energy. And then, like, it's got this cool, the sample plays by itself in the outro for that. So probably, you know, the first verse sample and then just the whole third verse beat are my favorite parts musically. Next question is going to be, how long did it take you to make? So for this one, I remember the beat was pretty quick. The first verse and second verse I got done relatively quickly. You know, if you watch the deconstructed, you'll see, you know, it's basically just a loop, a little like, you know, 4-bar, 8-bar loop for the sample for that section of the song. And the drums are pretty quick. You know, bass was pretty quick. I think, and then, you know, I think the part that maybe took a little longer, was harder with that, was the gap between finishing the first and second verse and coming up with the third verse idea. So for how long does it take me to make? I think probably, you know, somewhere again in the range of 2 months-ish. Like I've said in previous videos, this whole album creatively really took about 4 months for me to make, from, you know, Better Things all the way to finishing the last song on the album, which I believe title track was the last one I finished. So, you know, pretty much all of them have fallen mostly in that range of, you know, 2-ish months. But that's about how long it took me to make. Moving on to the next question is, was there any musical inspiration for this song? To be honest, I don't really think there was a ton, other than, like I've mentioned before, really, you know, trying to tap into a lot of the artists that I've looked up to, like in hip-hop especially, you know, Kanye, Drake, Kendrick Cole, Mac Miller, Jay-Z, all these different people, and trying to create something, you know, similar to what has inspired me about their music, and like just do my thing with it. I think the one thing I'll say that I think the third verse specifically, that beat kind of reminds me of MF Doom a little bit, just because I feel like it's a little different with the sample chop, and maybe the drums are a little different as well. I don't really know if he would have rapped on that beat at all, but to me that just kind of reminds me of him a little bit. R.I.P. to MF Doom, you know, man's a legend. But I think that beat kind of reminds me of him a little bit, just, you know, just that it's a little different, or, you know, just a little, you know, not like the rest of the beat or the rest of my other stuff. So that would probably be it for that question. Last question here is going to be, what was the hardest part of making this song? I think the hardest part for making this song was, like I mentioned, kind of that gap creatively between the first verse and the second verse, making that beat, and then making the third verse and the beat for that. So I think, just like I've kind of mentioned in other videos before, not really trying to stay open creatively to whoever I come across and be like, oh, this is cool, maybe this would work good with it, maybe it wouldn't, and just trying stuff. So originally when I had that sample, and like I say, I was probably talk about this in Deconstructed as well. The sample I had for the third verse originally, I wasn't planning on chopping it. I tried to, just do a loop again. I had like a section that I thought was cool. I actually had a way different section of the song that I didn't even use at all in the song, which is unfortunate because it was a cool section. But I ended up, chopping it just because I'm like, okay, I used the loop in the first verse and second verse. This loop isn't really working for me. Let's try chopping it. It'll be different, than the first verse, A, B, and C, just kind of laying out why I think that might work. I went for it, and then, eventually we got the beat that, I really liked. We added that delay, reverb, echo on it. Got really sounding cool, really different, so I really like that. But I think that was probably the hardest part. Probably the second maybe hardest part was just, pushing myself lyrically. Like I said, this is a really bars-focused song. So, trying to stay on top of it with, the bars and the flows and really the delivery, just really keep it fresh. So that was probably the hardest part of the song as well. That is going to be it for this episode of Dissect, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't listened to this song or my album Strangers in the Dark, definitely encourage you guys to check that out. We got a link in the description right now. Definitely encourage you guys to listen to it. It means a lot to me. Appreciate anyone who listens to my music. That is going to be all for this episode today. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.